Okay. Hello again, everybody. Today's guest is Benoit Langevin, Montreal City Councillor for Pierrefonds-Roxboro, and re-elected in Bois-de-Liesse. He is, not necessarily in this order, but it's a long list. He's the Vice President of the Montreal Economic Development and Housing Commission. He's President of the Pierrefonds-Roxboro Urban Planning Committee. He is the Pierrefonds-Roxboro Deputy Mayor. He is the Caucus Chair of the Official Opposition, and he's the spokesperson in the Shadow Cabinet on combating poverty and homelessness, family policy, and reconciliation. That would explain a lot of his connections with Sam Watts. Benoit describes himself as an entrepreneur specialized in social development. He holds a postgraduate diploma in social administration from the University of Montreal and is known for his expertise in writing successful requests for government funding and for program development. He's consolidated a team of outreach workers in 10 municipalities on the West Island and was instrumental in creating and stabilizing a shelter in his borough. He's lobbied the Montreal community for almost 2 decades to recognize the invisible homelessness in the West Island. He believes that uprooting vulnerable citizens from their environment only prolongs their marginalization. And with that, today he is going to talk to us about the day in the life of a counselor. So with that, Benoit, I hand it over to you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for this amazing introduction. It is very nice to not be in council today and be with you guys at the Rotary Club of Westmount. It is quite a big task to represent Montrealers at City Council, but also all the chairs that I've been mandated to over this mandate as a re-elected official. But I have to say that my biggest responsibility this year is to be Santa Claus at Mission Bon Accueil, thanks to Sam for the invitation. In the reflection that you guys brought forward, you mentioned Lester B. Pearson. I was very influenced by the school board of Lester B. Pearson, as they have been instrumental in the creation of a lot of my projects. And I have a lot of partners that are working at Lester B. Pearson, commissioners, teachers, anyone in that facility. But the man himself and what was just said really reaches me because I'm that kid that has ideas and wants to convert his ideas into reality. I was an ex-pro skater who had the opportunity to be raised in a very nice community, which is the West Island, Pierrefonds-Roxboro, and I just decided to stay home and just to give back and give it all to my community and get up every day, not necessarily having one day that looks like the previous one, and to always be as present and as dedicated to my community as I can be. I give myself the challenge to answer all my citizens within 24 hours, which I do. And Sam, I think, can testify on that one. I am a city councillor that wants to make sure that the West Island is heard, that we are actually considered, that we have different realities, and those realities has to be heard downtown and has to have a regional impact, influence. And I'll tell you a little bit why through my journey in the past 5 years as a city councillor. I'm going to put up my PowerPoint and wish me luck to put my screen and share my screen. There you go. It says I have to leave and come back, Jim.
Okay, hang on. What I'll do is I'm going to share mine,
Okay,
and you can just tell me when you want to flip to another screen.
perfect. The first one's the nicest one.
There you go. Can everybody see that?
So again, yeah, a city councillor. What is a city councillor? A city councillor is the guy who's kind of always on to be present and to be that guide for any resident that has question related to issues such as not having a roof over your head in one of my responsibility, to dealing with garbage and recycle bins and compost and snow removal, which is probably my biggest file because we do get a lot of snow in Pierrefonds-Roxboro, and operations aren't always very well understood. So you can go to the next one. So as I kind of introduced myself, and Jim, Mr. Fairs introduced me, well, that's kind of me. I'm also Santa Claus. I'm also the guy who spent 15 days sleeping in his car during the floods in Pierrefonds. Tried to make sure that 1,100 houses would get support from the borough and get sandbags as soon as possible. I'm also the guy who founded Ajoie, which is a nonprofit that outreaches to the West Island. I'm also that guy who's kind of always on the phone and try to make sure that bridges are built between people that wouldn't think that have actions to put in collaboration together in order to bring forward some projects in our city. And I'm that guy who tries to make sure to be very well prepared and that masters our democratic system at City Hall, at as a chair of the official opposition with our 37 elected officials. You can go, and also in that content, I'm also gonna talk a bit about some of the motions that I brought forward as the opposition for the past 5 years. We kind of bring ideas to the table, and then it goes forward or not, but we make sure that we address the issues and we convert and we translate whatever ideas that some regroupments have in our community, and we bring them forward in order to make it policy and to change the way that some of our systems can work with the different partners of the City of Montreal. And also at the end, I'm going to talk a bit about my portfolio and all my involvements locally, but regionally as well. So you can go to the next one. So as Mr. Fair presented, re-elected in Bois-de-Liesse, it's 11,000 doors every 4 years. I try to knock on each one of them. 1 out of 3 opens when you do it. So you do that also all year long with answering to citizens that has concerns. And being vice president also of the Economic Development and Housing Commission, this year is about working on the business of recycling and the circular economy that is potential in our city, meaning that you use the plastic that you throw in the recycle bin, and then the recycle bin sells the plastic, makes benches with it, and then it's resold, and it makes a full circle without any waste. Waste management is a big part of the city, obviously. So right now we're working on that file. We have been working on when there's construction. We also work on the fact that when there is chantiers where there's a lot of builds, well, a lot of vibrations create other issues such as pipe breakage and all of that. So there's another file on that is coming in a couple of weeks. When we talk about being caucus chair, as I mentioned, 37 elected officials, we have borough councillors, city councillors, and mayors all across the city of Montreal. And my role is to make sure that they don't fight with each other and they don't spread messages that are contradictory, and I make sure that we are going in the right path to gain the administration within the next mandate. And also being spokesperson of the shadow cabinet, combating poverty. The city of Montreal has the responsibility to make sure that it combats poverty and it allows everyone that would like to have a bed to be able to access one. And the city of Montreal is supposed to put everything in place in order for it to happen. So there's also family policies, such as I've been instrumental in a motion with the increase of cross guards across the island of Montreal, which is one of the examples. And also reconciliation. We do have a native population that is important, Inuit, Métis, on our territory in Montreal, and we work on different policies to make sure that their agenda is brought forward and whenever they need it. I'm also president of the Pierrefonds-Roxboro Urban Planning Advisory Committee, which is a role where any projects of envergure of a certain size gets into my office, and we look at the process of making sure that our citizens are consulted and they're not dropped a 500 door in front of their community, and that it changes the whole outlook of their area. I kind of make sure that all the 10 steps of public consultation are respected. And also I make sure that our architect committee and our urban planning committee, advisory committee, make sure that it respects every single bylaw that is imposed by our city at Montreal wide and at the borough level. Also, I'm deputy mayor because I'm very dynamic, as you can hear in my voice. Deputy mayor only means that if the mayor is sick or he can't be at functions, I will be assigned to represent it. So you can go to the next one, Jim. So I thought it would be a good idea to give you an idea of what I've been kind of working on since I've been elected, because sometimes people are like, hey, what are these guys doing? I mean, we elect them, they don't do much, and we have all these messages we get as elected officials, but what it really means is that we work as teams. With all the functions that I have, I'm not a one-man army. I have there's my face, but there's also a whole team behind me. For instance, when we talk about the motion of the creation of an emergency shelter and access resources for people experiencing homelessness in the peripheral borough, that first one was literally why I ran into politics, because the reason why I wanted to make ideas into reality, well, it's literally because as somebody who has been working for 10 years creating outreach workers across the territory and losing a lot of that manpower in the area because we had to bring these individuals to SAM in Saint-Henri and to Ober-Mission, we would lose a lot of our resources locally, transiting from our immense territory. So it was essential for me, and it was essential for the population I was trying to help, to make sure that they had a place that they could call home temporarily in order to get them back on the wheel and making them integrate a path of towards housing. And so that first policy that I brought forward, I worked on with our cabinet at City Hall. I have 2 attachés at the City Hall. I can mention also that I have an attaché at the borough to help citizens with garbage and all these issues that we deal with. And I have another attaché at the party when it comes to doing events for our 37 elected officials in order for them to have a family life, a political family life, and to not be only about changing the world and to always debate. There's the debate, but there's also a bridge to be built between Hochelaga representative and Pierrefonds-Roxboro representative, which could easily not find elements that they want to fight on with together. So these instances are very important. So I also been calling out the administration on student housing on a summit. Student housing is an issue. Even here in Pierrefonds-Roxboro and Saint Geneviève, we do have a CEGEP here in Saint Geneviève. Lack of housing for the people that are there. Lack of housing means more cars, more difficulty accessing, and more fares. It means it's more expensive for them to be able to study. So there was that. There's one of the ones that I like the most. I'm a doer. I'm a guy of action, and dealing with the city of Montreal for 10 years, I kind of went crazy. And that's another reason why I wanted to run, is because I couldn't believe that after 10 years, I was still treated as if I was a new nonprofit dealing with the city, but yet I was signing policies saying that I was a partner. A partner. You can't be a partner as if you're a new partner every year. So one of the main things that I wanted to do is to create a portal and make sure that a nonprofit that has been submitting grant requests that have been evaluated every 6 months, every year, every 2 years, that all these documents would be in one place and not to have to send my bylaws every year to the city of Montreal. So in May 2008, I dropped that motion, and right away the administration picked up on it, and they had the reflex to do it right away. And the opposition is not always about just criticizing. It's not always about making the others look bad. It's also about bringing that idea and giving the person who has that same responsibility within their own political party, within their own political team, be able to go forward with something they themselves desired. But because the opposition brought it forward, it just happens. It happens. It's just a conjunction of ideas, and then it just it gets created. So very proud of that one. Very happy, because it was painful for me as somebody who was actually doing those grants over years. So that was another one. As I mentioned about CrossGuard with the family responsibility, for 35 years, the SPVM hadn't reviewed their corners across the island. We had the same amount of policing that there was 35 years ago. So I raised my hand and said, hey, this makes no sense. I mean, with the quantity of children that we have, the increase of children that happen over the years, makes no sense that we don't have more cross guards. And also development changes communities, and the circulation, the walkability of different cities changes over years. So I did that in partnership with all the school commissions of the island of Montreal. And we brought that forward, and it was quite a win, because right away, Projet Montréal picked up on it, and they went like, hey, yeah, that makes no sense. So they gave $2 million the year after, and there was a serious increase since then. Another one that that got on my desk was the universal accessibility. In all contract of the city of Montreal, when a snow removal happens, there is never any lines in the contract we have with snow removal companies that says that all the bateaux pavés and débarcadères, in English it's launchers, I think, when you there's no way for somebody with a wheelchair to be able to go on the street if it's not snow removed. So in the contract, we made sure that there was a line in that contract that would make sure, and that was accepted also, so that universal accessibility is now something that is in the contract. What it really means is that at the end of the day, if somebody feels that he's in prison in their house and can't get out, well, they can call the city 311 and say, is the contract respected with our snow removal company, and is there something that can be done for my front to be removed? And now that person will get an answer from 311 saying, well, we're going to send that company, otherwise it'll have a written report in their next contract if they want to renew, and that has an impact on the price of the renewal. So Naxalon in municipal libraries. We don't talk enough about this, but I'm sure Sam can agree with me that we do have an issue with heavy usage of drugs, heavy drug consumption. Yes, Sam, there's too many electric scooters. Troublemaker here. So motion to for Naxalon, we wanted to train all the people that are in the libraries, especially in Hochelaga and some libraries where we do have a lot of heavy drug users that are on site that are using heavy drugs and have a high chance of overdose. So we wanted Projet Montréal to train these workers to be able to use the Naxalon to prevent deaths from overdoses in our libraries. But that one didn't pass, but we still believe in it because we did have overdoses in 4 of our municipal libraries, mainly in Hochelaga and some other areas downtown. Also, prevent proliferation of scooters. There was a bylaw at some point, Projet Montréal said, oh, let's have scooters on our Bixi system. And we thought it was kind of ridiculous because when they did their pilot project, we would find those scooters in the Lachine Canal. We would find them. So it was just not a good idea. And even Projet Montréal decided to retract from that pilot project.
Did I go too far?
No. I'm going to skip some because I don't want to take too much time. It's 26 minutes.
You're good.
So there was a lot of camping in Hochelaga about 2 years ago during the pandemic. There was 10 tents, and I would be calling Sam and said, Sam, this makes no sense. It's growing. There's a lot more and more tents are out there in Hochelaga. What do we do? Let's do something. Let's intervene. Let's react to this. And then Sam sent some workers, a lot of partners sent some outreach workers out there to propose some alternative. But we did a motion at the City of Montreal because we wanted the City of Montreal to increase their power and their argument towards Quebec in order for them to have more resources to actually propose alternatives to these people that decides to camp on a MTQ land that has some serious dangerous risks, such as camping outside at -10 when you have propane tanks. You have a lot of people that are drug addicts that are taking a lot of medication on site, a lot of health issues as well, elders that are homeless. That would occupy the territory. The level of required services was getting out of hand, so weeks after weeks after weeks. So in May, I brought this motion forward because May, June, all the way up to November, you would see 10 more tents every week and every month, let's say. And at a certain point, it was out of control. And that's when they decided to send the police and the fire department to dismantle the site. What we were literally saying is that before it gets there, send the proper resources. Don't make it an option for our homeless people to tolerate the fact that they stay there, because the impact it has also was the incivility. The cohabitation became unlivable for the neighboring community, and it was something that needed to be called out and to interest medias on. As a community, as a city, we had to take that situation seriously, and yes, to tolerate a certain time, with a great action plan, fine. But to tolerate for 6 months and up, for me, it just became that somebody wasn't taking their leadership where it should. Also create a housing bank for the opposite. Every year, the city comes out and says, we have a good plan to make sure that on July 1st, we're going to have everybody housed. I called Sam and I was like, hey, Sam, let's do something with this. And with Mission Bon Accueil, we worked on a file to make sure that all the major stakeholders, major actors of our community would work together in order to have a better answer on the 1st of July. So the idea was to have a bank of pre-lease for July 1st, so that the city would pull out $2 million, that it would secure leases, about 150 leases. And then when somebody takes on the lease, well, then they take over the payments and the lease becomes transferred. The Montreal administration refused it because they can't accept everything we asked them, because otherwise we'd look too good. That's kind of how it works. Hopefully next year they'll change their mind, because we could reapply this year, because the amount of people that still didn't have a place on July 1st was significant, and a lot of partners were questioning why we didn't use kind of new tools and new ways to answer the situation. So maybe they're questioning themselves. I really hope so. So urges the administration to take action on humanitarian experience by, yes, the ombudsman came out. Ombudsman is an entity that is there as a last recourse for a citizen that would not have considered that their request would be considered in the city of Montreal. So that's an entity that really evaluates if there was neglect, if there was negligence in what the city has given as an answer to a citizen that is not happy with the services they got. So the ombudsman was critical and got approached by a groupment of residents at a corner of Milton Park. We do have an Inuit community that is very strong in that area. We do have a nonprofit there that operates a shelter. And over years, the ombudsman has been calling out the fact that there wasn't sufficient action taken on that file, calling the report the Stop Talking About Homelessness, Act on It. That was kind of the title of the project, of the report they came out with, was bringing 8 recommendations, and 2 of them was, one was to create a culturally adapted resources for the Inuit population that is there, that occupies that area for decades, and that the city should go forward with an investment and maybe ask for partners after, because after 5 years of asking and not getting the answers they want, not getting the resources they should be getting, and the leadership it should be involved in that file, questions are good to answer in those circumstances to make sure that there's a follow-up. And that's kind of, the file I've been talking about in last council. And even if there's still a lot of resources there, there is still a good action plan that needs to be taken there. So that's it. I brought that slide forward because obviously me and Sam has been working a lot on that file over years, over more than a decade now. So yeah, Montreal has that reality. We can go to the next one. And I think that, that's a picture. I wanted to touch a little bit on the fact that, being a politician is not only about bylaws and motion, it's mainly to be present in the ground and to listen to all the actors, to listen to everyone who are getting involved in that file. Because it's that file. If I'd be with the file of garbage, I'd probably be talking to the renowned researchers in that field, and on that one, I'm with Mr. Latimer, who has been instrumental behind the I Count Montreal in 2018, and prior to that, researcher at McGill, somebody very involved in the community. And the guy on the right is our chief, Mr. Aref Salem, who's interim chief at Ensemble Montréal right now. And we try to be as present and to listen to people's concern in Montreal to better our city, better our communities. You can go to the next one. So yeah, that's another event. I mean, every week, every night, we get 2, 3, maybe 8 invitations to all things that are happening in Montreal. And we obviously have to target our own files and to make sure that, everybody's kind of everywhere, because we're all divided as a team in all the different activities that are going on the city of Montreal. And so that one was the Nuit des Sans-Abri. Aref is there again. And you see also my vis-a-vis, Madame Blanco, at the city of Montreal. And I really like to put that picture on because politics is not about name shaming or shaming anyone. It's really about advancing the city's ideas. And politics is about, because, next week she could be assigned to another file and I would have another vis-a-vis. So it's nothing personal. It's always something that is important to create that conversation and to bring ideas forward and make projects advance in our city. You can go to the next one if there's any. Oh, that's Luc Desjardins at l'Itinéraire. I wanted to, as I was saying, there's executive directors of lots of nonprofits on our territory of the island of Montreal, and I try to meet them. I try to interview them, to have exchanges, see their perspective, and to make sure that every time I go to City Hall, I'm not that guy who just invented his own path, and that I want to bring that voice to the table, their voice to the table. So I need to have that constant interaction with all stakeholders, and to make sure that our democracy works. And democracy is important, and I'm a fighter for it. So, and also wanted to talk. I mentioned a bit about the floods, but we also deal with all the natural crises and all the crises that are hitting our city. On my first mandate, I had a housing crisis, an opioid crisis, 2 floods, and what else? I'm always 2 floods, and there's always something going on. There's always a food bank that catch fire. There's always a nonprofit that loses their locale, that can't operate anymore. Every week there's a challenge everywhere. Our Legion in Roxboro caught on fire last month, right before Christmas. There's always something going on at the borough level, at the city level, which requires our attention, and to make sure that the proper resources are deployed. If they're not, in our case as the opposition, we have to make sure that it's vocal, and medias help us to bring that support and that help. So our ears are there, our hearts are there, obviously, and we're there for our constituents. And for a borough councillor, that means the people who elects you. But for a city councillor, it's the whole island that we represent. So we have to be aware of pretty much what's going on in Hochelaga and what's going on in Pierrefonds at the same time. So that's it for me, guys. If you have questions,
I just
bring it. And I'm really happy.
I had to unmute myself before I can get back in here. I'll start the questions off if I may.
Yes.
Does the West Island need a large facility like the Welcome Hall Mission or like the old brewery? Should there be a mission like that out in the West Island?
Well, Ricochet, which was I was talking about, is kind of a baby, a little baby compared to the operations of Mission Bon Accueil or Old Brewery Mission. But it's still an essential baby in the sense that these nonprofits, these smaller nonprofits, in the case of Ricochet, because every nonprofit is different, but the model it brings forward kind of looks at what Mission Bon Accueil and Old Brewery Mission creates, as in intervention plans, as in functionality. And sometimes it's old employees from these bigger nonprofits that brings the culture of these bigger nonprofits to the table, and that kind of spreads the ability to be that stepping stone towards regular housing or transitory housing.
Okay. Susan Buscemi, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Benoit. This is very, very interesting. Your enthusiasm shines through, so thank you for your dedication.
Not easy with the I think I'm better live at these things because
you must be amazing live because it's really coming through here.
Thank you. That's very nice.
2 questions. So the first one is, on average during the week, how many requests, either email or phone, do you get from your constituents? And the other question is, you were talking about your motion for a housing bank, and you kind of mumbled that they're not all accepted because they don't want you to look too good. What did you mean by that?
I promised Sam I wouldn't go too political. Sam, I promise I'll try not to go too political, okay? The first question, I want to say it depends. If there's a floods in the community, I could get 50 calls a day, and I could sleep in my car and have people at midnight asking for sandbag. But it could also be, I think if I put an average, it's about 7 a day, 7 requests from citizens, but then you get help from your team. So it kind of works because you get support from them, but also citizens, elder citizens, I'm going to put it this way, they really want to feel, they want to see, they want to know their city councillors. So I think I have more calls from older generation, especially my Legion, Roxboro Legion partners. They won't call 311. They'll call me directly, and that's fine. I mean, I got guys that are 95 years old and they are pissed off because their garbage hasn't been picked up at 10:15, and usually it's at 9:30. But I do understand all they want to do is chat, right? They just want to feel that there's somebody there. There's a community behind them, that, they're not on their own. So it's a lot of, you're still an outreach worker, even if you're elected. So, you get those calls. Sometimes it's longer. If you have time, you'll give the time. It's kind of a always on kind of job. It's not a job. It's more like a lifestyle, which my wife and my 2 kids understood very quickly. That, my wife makes money and she's the business one, and I'm more like the social guy, so she doesn't have to do the volunteer stuff. So she takes care of the kids, the house, and I kind of am given to our society to just, make sure our kids have a better future in that sense. And that's kind of the balance we have as a team at home. But it's not always easy. I have to admit that when I want to stop and take a break, I have to get sick, in the sense that, the only way I can stop is to have a doctor's document that says, Benoit, go home. You have bronchite aiguë, you can't work anymore, you can't talk, you gotta. And honestly, the last break I got was when that doctor gave me that paper, because every people's problems are kind of important, and to somebody, garbage is more important to than having a shelter for everyone in our society. And you got to take everybody the same way, and you got to make sure that everybody gets the service they're supposed to be getting, and you got to fight for them, because we do have, the administrative part to what we deal with is hard too. Staff is hard to hire. Contracts we deal with aren't always respected, but we kind of have to take the responsibility for them. There's a lot of weight to this position. But every election you kind of ask yourself that question, that killer question. It's either me or that guy from the Sud-West who has been dropped by another political party, or the other guy who's from another district who never stepped foot in your area where you grow up, where I grew up, which is Pierrefonds-Roxboro, 41 years of age, and where I had the opportunity to have a great community grow up with. So that sense of responsibility keeps you there. That sense of responsibility, keeps you there, and you just can't, not put your name in, because otherwise who else is going to do it? Because the rules are so strict that not much people can apply to these positions. And once you're elected, it's a lot easier to get reelected as well. So yeah, so that's kind of the good and bad part to it, but you gotta love people. That's it. And you gotta kind of, people has to become fuel and not problems for you. And that's kind of how I see it. When I see people, I kind of charge myself with people through people. And we have a lot of negative, because we're not always fun. We have to take bad decisions too, or not bad, but rough decisions. Some decisions are budgetary, some decisions are hard to swallow for some citizens, and that's also difficult. But at the same time, when you have activities where people are very happy, you kind of get charged by people.
Mr. Watts, you'd like to say something?
Well, I'm going to give Ben a chance to be slightly political. So here's my question. This is your opportunity. Of all the things that you've promoted to this point, things that you're passionate about, things that you've tried to push forward, if you could pick just one thing that the current administration has not moved forward on, what would that one thing be? I'm not going to let you do two. You can only pick one.
It's going to be one, but it's going to be large. In my perspective, the city should allow itself to have a bigger budget to answer swiftly and with agility to emergency crises relative to homelessness. It does not make sense that we have the same budget for the past 10 years at the City of Montreal, considering the increase of vulnerability in our city and the challenges that the epidemic has brought forward. Makes no sense. And to me, we have to have 3 times, 4 times the budget allocated to what we have now. And I think that the CIUS, or the health department, should consider it after what we just went through. Not necessarily to answer all the needs, but to be able to answer swiftly and have the proper tools to accompany nonprofits in their mission to answer all the projects that they want to bring forward when it comes to bringing somebody towards a trajectory of housing. Is that specific enough? Not too political.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you.
Well done.
Okay.
Well
Yeah.
done.
Oh, and I want to continue on the emotion that you've asked for the first of the second part of your question was about the emotion on the 1st of July. I didn't even go into politics, but they've refused it because they said Mr. Doré, which is the mayor of Sud-West, and which is the responsible at the executive level for housing, literally answered me when we got that motion forward: we're ready, we're ready, we're ready. And with that grin, with that energy, and that caricature answer, it's hard not to get angry when you realize that you have the week after two mothers with their children asking you how to be housed. And because they have children, they're considered a family and they can't have access to the program he was ready for. It's hard not to do politics in those situations and not just to go grab your boxing gloves and try to prepare yourself for next 1st of July and to bring back that motion as you can. I have a question from Malcolm. Are there any...
Yes, basically I'm asking if, as a result of the floods, are there any low-lying areas that they're not going to allow to rebuild?
Yes. And right now it's a struggle because I have neighbors that are trying to advocate towards Quebec government to change the ZIS map, which is the Zone d'Intervention Spéciale. The ZIS map is part of a Règlement de Contrôle Intérimaire, which is a territory where it does not allow you to do an expansion on your house other than on top. And it does not allow you to construct anything in the 0 to 20 ZIS map. So these guys that have been working their entire life and has been living in Pierrefonds-Roxboro for 35 years, it's not just a house. It's the end of their lives. It's their heritage to their kids. It's their capacity to take loans. It's putting people that have been contributing to our community in a very hard position where they've worked they have a milieu de vie, and the Quebec government is telling them it's not worth a dime anymore and you can't do nothing with it. So we do have those houses right now that are advocating to the Quebec government and that are trying to make sure that their house, their property are taken out of that ZIS map. Because since then, there is 27 different interventions that are in place that are different to deal with the increase of the volume of the water and the height of the water on our 27-kilometer shore that allows us to protect houses that weren't protected in 2017, which have been protected in 2019 with all these interventions through a intervention plan. But again, we never know, Mr. McRae, how big and how fast the water is going to go, and if our strategies are going to work year after year after year, having climate change, having that new reality that's kind of on our plate every spring. It's really bad. I even have employees that don't want to work in Pierrefonds-Roxboro anymore because they know they're going to have to do overtime if we have floods. And also it's a crisis management kind of environment every spring, because our action plan gets declared when the height of the water is at such a level. And then it goes from scaling, niveau 1, niveau 2, niveau 3, niveau 4, and all the levels have different actions going on the territory. It's kind of a symphony of intervention on a whole territory, but the deployment is intense. That plus dealing with the medias, dealing with the Supermans of this world. And what I mean by that is a lot of people are well-intentioned, but they're kind of in a way of a public intervention, of a authoritarian kind of action plan. And some people, they think they can do better than the city. And that's also hard to manage as an elected official. You're kind of a daycare worker in that, because and do understand that the people are scared and they're worried, but at the same time, you need to be that guy who goes to talk to them and try to level their intensity and to make sure that they don't put themselves at risk of being arrested or being in a situation where they can't work and help.
Okay.
But has any land been bought and basically said that this is the city take it over and not build?
Hate to cut in, Malcolm, but we're gonna have
Yes,
to
sir.
make this fast.
Really fast.
Yeah.
Some lands have been purchased by the city, but not all of them. Because when you buy that property, you have to maintain it after. And when there's too many properties, you don't have enough manpower to cut the grass every month. So it's quite an operative problem. It's quite an operational challenge.
What's being done about the labor shortage?
About the labor shortage? When you
Yes.
mean by hiring staff at the
Oh, a
city
lot
level?
of business are looking for workers. There's a tremendous labor shortage in restaurants, etc.
Well, that responsibility is under the jurisdiction of the provincial government mainly. But the city of Montreal is in that same position, where we have a lot of job opportunities that aren't fulfilled, and that affects our ability to give the services it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, it's more of a provincial jurisdiction.
I'm gonna cut it off there because we're running quite late now. There's too many people asking questions, obviously. But I thank you very much, Benoit. Many years ago, I met Marcel Tremblay, who was our representative here in NDG for a while. And I got to know him fairly well. And he said to me, there isn't a politician, federal, provincial, that comes near to working as hard as a municipal politician has to work. You're in the face of the people, they're in your face. There's, like you said, you have 11,000 households that have direct access to you. And it can be, I know, sometimes a thankless job. But for people like you, I would imagine that it's very, very rewarding. And I thank you very much for your what can I say, your openness and as Susan said, your esprit, very, very much appreciated. We're going to continue our meeting, and it's stuff that you definitely don't need to be